Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Irvin from Team Shenanigans Gaming. We're here with another deck profile. Tell us your name.
My name is JP.
All right, and you're also representing Team Shenanigans?
I am indeed
Nice.
an OG member with you.
All right. What were you playing, JP? And tell us your accomplishment.
I got second place at the San Antonio Regional running Jemial Luna.
Nice. All right, well, go ahead and get into the deck profile. Tell us whatever you think is necessary to tell.
First, I'll start with the shard deck. I ran 9 regular shards and then 1 Corona shard. Best new shard. I did play test the Fizzy shard, but Corona shard is just way too good against Sylphia.
So no Luna shard either?
No.
Shard?
Luna, interesting. We're gonna go into the units. I ran 3 Mr. Kins. The draw power and the deck thinning is just way too insane with this card. You must run 3, and then if you have extras in your hand, you can discard it with Jemial's champion ability. Next, I ran 3 Azure Seer. This is probably the best low drop unit in the deck. It removes bricks off the top of your deck, and then it can scout out all the towers for free. I can't tell you how many times I hit an Inferno Tower or Wind Tower with that on the first turn. Next, 3 Azure Guardian. Second best Guardian in this deck behind Juggernaut. This is really good against Hoenn Kite because it's 2k, so it's bigger than all the Hoenn golem tokens they were making. Also, it's revivable by Yami. Next, I was running 2 Ash. Should have been 3, but I didn't have a third one, and I didn't want to put on my deck list before I got my own from the regional. This card's insane because you don't have to exhaust to use its ability, and you can put all the counters on the same tower, and you can shoot low power units off the board for free. Next, 1 Juggernaut. This card was pretty much an auto win and a control mirror because you can chain its shard drain ability multiple times on a queue, and so it made it almost impossible to remove from the board. I had 2 Hoenn Kite players scoop to me because I got rid of their Sylphia and then I dropped this, and then they had no out to it at all. Next, I ran 1 Stormcaster. I've gone back and forth on 2, but 1 was good, and I actually ended up siding it out most of the time. Very situational because the water tower has to be destroyed. And then I ran 1 of each Argent rare. Mayu is the best blue card printed because obviously the free casting of a spell is just way too OP. There's a lot of times in the tournament where I put Chronostasis in the graveyard with Jemial, and then I would just dig it out with Mayu and just instantly cast it because it gives me the ability to reuse Mayu, and then it also cleared the whole board for free. Next we'll go to spells. I ran 3 Phantasmal Guard. Very good. It gives you 2 counters on your Jemial. Also gives you 2 500 Guardian tokens, which are really useful against low-cost scouters like Azure Seer. The most popular one I saw was Shard Beast. So next, 3 Ancient Serpent's Breath. I think this is by far the best spell in the deck, besides Chronostasis and Shards, because if you play with Mr. Kins and Azure Seer correctly, you always have a target so that you get the draw effect, and then you use a Shard Drain on your opponent's creatures. So there's a lot of times in later games where I was locking my opponent's draw with Garga or something like that, and they would like panic and try to make sure that the Ancient Serpent's Breath didn't put Garga or a dead draw back on top of their deck. So it was incredible throughout the whole tournament. Next, turn 3 Mizu. This card is absolutely bonkers. You just let your opponent zerg down your towers until you get to 2 or less, and then you're constantly drawing or exhausting, whichever one is more situational. I'm going to say 95% of the time I did exhaust and draw, but there was a couple times where I had to do exhaust and bounce just to deal with tokens and stuff that were on the board. Next, I ran 2 Tidal Rush. This card is awkward in the mana curve at the beginning of the game, but late game, I don't think there's a better late game card because you can just Shard Drain and you literally shoot 2 minions off the board. It was really good against Hoenn Kite as well because I would just ping 2 tokens off the board and they were just gone for 3 mana, so that was really useful. Next, the best spell in the whole entire card game, in my opinion, is Shards of Winter. I use this in 2 different ways. I used it defensively, obviously, because it exhausts all your opponent's units, but there was a couple times when I used it offensively. I would let my opponent establish their board, and then I would just Shards of Winter before the end of the turn, and then I would be able to push for towers or game on the next turn. It really caught a lot of people off guard because they're not used to seeing Shards of Winter used that way, so it really worked to my advantage. And then the last blue spell is Chronostasis. I went back and forth between 2 copies and 1 copy. It turns out 1 was the correct call because with Mayu, I got multiple uses out of it. Incredible card. Incredible in the mirror match, especially in the later game. It's also a response to Sylphia. If they try to Sylphia your board, and then they try to bounce it back with Kite, you can just Chronostasis to the bottom, and then, like I said, you dig it out of your graveyard menu. So that's it for spells. Next we'll do the dark cards. 2 Delayed Poison. I'm probably going to change it to 3 after this video. This card's just a one drop, a unit remover. I ran 2 Returning Shadows. This was a good theory card, but it only came up, I think I used it once in the whole tournament. Other than that, I was just discarding it as part of Jemial's cost. The idea behind it was to reuse Watchwoman's and all the Argent rares, but in reality, I had so much control of the game, I never really had to reuse those cards. I only got 1 use out of them, so this ended up in the graveyard more times than not. Next, 2 Yami. Arguably the best Omega Magic card, which is why it's the most expensive right now, but this is incredible in this deck because the -1000 deals with a bunch of low-cost creatures that are 1k, and the fact that it can bring back a 3LS is good because Ash and Azure Guardian, all those are all 3 or less, and so there's a lot of times where I was minusing like against aggro decks or against Hoenna. I would minus something that was 1000 and that would bring back the Azure Guardian, and then they just immediately had a Guardian in their way, so it was really good. Also probably going to switch that to 3. And then the last are in Debilitating Miasma. This is the anti-aggro destroyer, as I like to call it, because this card does not damage your opponent's units, it just minuses them. So it's really good against Yuki decks or anything. And whenever they side into Shard Beast, this card's really good against Shard Beast as well. And then the last 2 cards in my deck, 2 Watchwomen. I only ever played this card to win the game. There were situations where it would have been good against token decks because it has target attack, so I would just drop and remove units, but I never had to do that. I pretty much held both of these in my hand with like a Mizu or something, and then I would just use these 2 to end the game because I would get through my deck pretty quick. Next side deck, we'll do that last. Ariana's Omelet, because we don't like Kite. Twilight Knight, I had in the main deck. It ended up being cloggy more than not, so I would side this in the control matchup because I would be able to pop one of my many Guardians I had and push with Destroyer. It was very situational. I got it to happen once. Other than that, they didn't really get sided in. 3 of the best neutral colored card in the game. Augments are really big in Liam and in green decks, whether they run either hero. This is also a target for Yami, which a lot of people don't realize. So it was really common for me to Yami this out of the graveyard when my opponent played a War Room or my opponent played a Skytree command, because then I would just nuke their augment off the board and they don't even get any use out of it. So it would leave them in a minus, so that was good. I side decked the Stormcaster, never got sided in. The idea was if you played the Blue Mirror, that this card would be really good in the Blue Mirror. But like I said, I never sided that in. I sided 1 Chronostasis, which I always sided this in against Hoenna. I always played 2 because being able to just take all your opponent's minions off the board, most of the time they're tokens, it basically just removes everything for free. The card is incredible. I wish I could play 2, but it just costs too much. I sided a 2nd Juggernaut. This came in every single side deck because, like I said earlier, this card is almost impossible to remove once you deal with their Sylphia, because if they Gargate, you just get to replay it on the next turn. I had 2 control matchup players just completely scoop when this card got dropped. Especially, I only had it removed once, and then I played another one on the next turn, and that guy scooped, so it's really good. The rest of these cards, I didn't really side. I sided 2 Cryptic Secret. In theory, it's a good card, but in the matchups I was going to side it in, I went with Juggernaut and Chronostasis instead because they were just better options. 2 Reactive Runes, same reasoning as before. And then this was probably the MVP of my side deck, Catastrophe Demon. If this card got played, my opponent immediately went into like panic mode because it causes them to skip a turn on their mana loop. And then on top of that, people forget that this card also has Destroyer. So the combination of the 2 made my opponent like emergency remove it from the board. There was a situation where I actually won a game because my opponent had an Iscanter down to 6, but he skipped his 6th mana, or his 6th shard, it came in tap, and then he conceded because he had no way to win the game. So
wow.
Yeah, it was a fun tournament. There was way too many Hoenna Kite decks. I think that Kite's a little OP, but you know, I lost to 1 because he opened Corona Shard and Sylphia, but I'm looking forward to the next set. I think that this game's going in the right direction. So.
All right, thank you very much.